T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. I am your host, Jen Black, and this is episode 20 of All Monitor Talk with my partner in crime, Mike Stefani.
Hey, how you doing, Jen? I just wanted to say something real quick. Jen, yeah. you with them glasses on? You look like the hot teacher, like the kid tells them. The teacher tells the kid, hey, you stay after school, and then you take your glasses off and let your hair down. Looking good, Jen.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm going for.
That's the look. I got you.
Yes.
So here we are.
All right.
USARK. Anybody who keeps animals of any kind of animals, you should join USARK. These guys fight tirelessly for our rights to keep and breed and just have pets that we all love and nurture. So go out to the USARK.com site, join at any level that you want, volunteer at shows, donate animals to the auctions. And this was just our past Tinley, the largest auction ever. And thank you for joining USARK.
Hello, everyone. Today's sponsor is Blake's Exotic Feeders. If you want high quality quail at different sizes and good prices, Blake's the guy to hit up. Today, who we have today, Mike?
We have the man, the myth, and the legend, Chris Applin he's down in Indo, and he's doing great things down there. It's always great to talk to another brother who loves Varanus like we do. So I present to you, Chris Applin.
Hello, Chris Applin. Thank you for joining us.
Guys? I was expecting, I was hoping for a nice compliment off Mike there after you got such a nice one, Jen. So, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Come on, yes.
Well, you know what? Uncle Mike don't lie. You're doing great things, Chris. You're an asset to the monitor world. You and Peter, you guys are doing great things down there. We share all the information that we can for the betterment of the species that we love to work with. Of course, we love all animals, but this is all monitor talk. So that's what we talk about because that's what we love. So, Chris, you had just posted a couple of videos. If I'm not mistaken, it was probably either, we got a big time difference, 12-hour time difference. So when I woke up this morning, I seen 1 and 2 of your new indoor monitor breeding facility in Indo. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I posted it as 2 videos because I haven't worked out how to do YouTube yet, and Instagram only lets you do 1 minute 30. So I thought I'd just post them both today rather than do the 2. But yeah, something I've been working on a bit, like I was telling you and Jin off air, is obviously everything we've been doing previous to this, monitor-wise, has all been in outdoor enclosures, which is brilliant. But a bit like you, Mike, when it comes to the animals, I'm a bit of a control freak. So I thought I'm not going to be able to do what I've learned outside, because I've never kept anything outside. You can't keep anything outside in the UK. It's just far too cold. So while I'm learning the outdoor stuff, I thought if we can set something up inside, sort of replicating exactly what I was doing in the UK, that would be better. So yeah, so literally since the first month I was here, we designed the cages. They're pretty much an exact replica of what I've got at home. So they're apart from the material we were using, we have used, which is brick and metal fronts, which is crazy because in the UK, a bit like I was telling you before, it would have cost, just astronomical amounts of money. But like I said, these are all brick built, cement, metal framed, And then we actually got a local woodsmith, sawsmith, or whatever used, the old offcuts that they use when they're sort of milling the wood. We're using that. So what it means is those cages will be there for the next 30 years, where if you use wood like I have in the UK, mine are looking ropey after 3 years.
Wow.
So that's pretty good. What it also means is what I learned from the short time that I have been here is everything tree monitor wise now, it started slowing off. So we're coming into the rainy season here in Indonesia now, and it's just not the optimum conditions for breeding tree monitors. So they're going to be very seasoned. We might be able to get, I've had a couple of cordensis now that have laid their second clutch, but I'm used to getting 3-4 clutches a year. All year round, I've hatched out babies pretty much every month of the year. So if we've got this indoor facility now, when the outdoor stuff sort of slows off, it'll run, for our off season as well. So we'll be producing monitors all year round, which is obviously ideal.
So you're in Jakarta?
No, we're in Bogor, which is about 2 hours from Jakarta. We're a bit of an elevation, so it's a lot cooler here. But it's also, we get a bit more of a rainy season. So it's Bogor, like I said before, it's called the rainy city. So the wet season here is a heavy wet season, and the temperatures, we get a massive temperature swing. I can't
That's
work
what I was going to ask. I was like, higher elevation, usually the temperatures, what is it on a normal day?
I mean, it have been Celsius because I haven't worked out the Fahrenheit, but you're looking at 30 to 35 Celsius in the day. I don't know if you want to Google it. I'll have a quick Google if you want. 35 C to F. 35 C's. Which is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the top end in the day. And then we're looking at...
That's 95 degrees. 35 Celsius is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow.
19 Celsius to F. And then it's 66 degrees here at night, most nights. So we get a really good swing. It does work well for a lot of the snakes and the monitors to get that cooler drop.
Now, with those temperatures in your immediate area, I would imagine it varies throughout natural ranges, but does those 66 degree night temps, is it detrimental at all to certain species, or can they take those temps?
They can definitely take them, Mike. Yeah. I mean, I think it works in our favor. Like I was about to say there, in Jakarta, it's like that 35 degrees all the time, and then they may get a 5-degree drop. So it's a lot hotter all the time. I think it's easier, especially for the indoor stuff. It's going to be massively better. I can control that way easier. But even on the outdoor stuff, they don't want to be running, at full tilt all the time. And like I said, even sort of the travels I've done in Batanta and some of the places that these monitors come from, they do get quite a bit of a night drop, and it does get chilly. It's surprising how chilly it gets. So I'd rather have the range than be stuck super hot. I'd rather be able to manipulate it or deal with that rather than have it hot all the time.
Right. So, you see, what I find with indoor keeping, of course, now, when I'm talking to you about indoor keeping versus outdoor keeping, when I say outdoor keeping, I'm referring to southern United States, so it's nothing like the same to what you're doing. But, inside, I've always been an indoor keeper. I'm in freaking Wisconsin, for Christ's sake. It gets way too cold here. But I can take my animals and get, 4, even 5 clutches a year out of some of these animals. So without that seasonal variation that they naturally go through, I put myself in a predicament where I think to myself, as we know, any animal is a duck, a bird, whatever the case may be. They're born with all the eggs they're ever going to have in their life within their body. So if I take a pair of Mertens monitors and I produce, 100 eggs in a year, I don't believe they're doing that in a year in Australia. So year after year after year, producing 100 eggs, 100 eggs, 100 eggs. I keep this in the back of my mind that, I got to be depleting their stores. We have no idea how many they actually can produce over a lifetime, but with seasonal control like we do here in captivity, they're producing a lot more eggs in a year than they would in the wild. Do you have any input on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit why sort of the reason we're doing it indoors here. You can run stuff at optimal conditions. One interesting thing I found over here, which I'm sort of documenting, is like for example, usually you'd go from the last breeding till the first egg is around 30 days. Over here, it can go so much longer. We're talking 50 days, 60 days
before they lay eggs.
Before they lay eggs, because they're choosing optimum conditions for that nesting. I've actually implemented some heated nest boxes outside now, so they feel. Most monitors lay at nighttime or at night, from my experience. So we're providing some of them with actual heated nest boxes to see how that works. But the clutches that I have had from the tree monitors and some Salvadori, they were unheated nest boxes. But what I did notice when they did lay those eggs, it was a really hot day on that day. So obviously we provide all of them with nesting, but not heated nesting. But that nest box would have heated up. So I think they can choose and to hold on to the eggs a bit more. Where in captivity, it seems, again, you can sort of plan it very easy to when you're going to get eggs. So yeah, they're definitely not laying. I wouldn't imagine they were laying even 2 clutches in the wild, tree monitor wise. Your Mertens won't be as well, because they'll be getting such a variation in weather. I found quite a few Mertens, and it floods quite a lot up there where those guys are from, and it does get cold in some areas. So yeah, I think they've got one shot at it in the wild. I think in captivity we can support them a lot more. Yeah. So it's not only just the temperatures
to benefit.
Yeah, it's not just
absolutely. And with that being said, anybody who's watching this, like I said just a minute ago, you got to take that into consideration that we are providing them with optimum conditions, optimum nesting, and they produce and they produce and they produce. However, you have to give them a little bit of a break. If not, if you run them full 3-4 years and you're producing, 250 eggs, what I generally like to do is retire them, because, man, I love these animals. I feel sometimes producing as many as I do that maybe that's not the kindest thing to do to the animal itself. So while I know they still have plenty of reproduction left in them, however, for my conditions where they just run like Ferraris, I generally will retire them to another home where maybe they're not as skilled breeding. And I don't want to sound arrogant, but, it would slow down their egg production and probably increase their lifespan for what it's worth.
Before we go any further, we want to say hi to people who have joined us. We have Lucid Oboreals. Hello. We have Dan Nardini. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Dan, from the UK. I know Dan well. He's a good man.
Yeah. Garden State Pythons. Pete. Hello.
Hi, Pete.
William Powell. How are you?
That's my buddy, my lifelong buddy. Hi, Bill.
We also have Brad's Bioactive Build. Hello, Brad.
Hey, Brad.
And so far, that is it. That's all we have so far. But yeah, I wanted to say hello to them before we continue.
Thanks for tuning in. Going back to that, Mike. Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think you can do that for a certain amount of years, and I think it's just if all of us love these monitors, and I think you can just keep running them, and they're just going to deplete and deplete. So why not just get a good breeding season out of them? All of us that are doing this. Again, not to sound arrogant, just like you said, Mike, but we've got babies coming on. Do you know what I mean? So you can replace those adults with babies that you're raising up. And, some of the stuff with the selective breeding and stuff, that's exactly what you want to do. If you're breeding for color or pattern or something, you want to be replacing those older animals with the fresh new blood that you've got anyway. So yeah, why not breed them, definitely a lot more than they get in the wild for a certain amount of time, retire them off and bring that new blood in and just complete that cycle. But yeah, I think we can give them optimum food, which they're not getting in the wild. That the food is so seasonal in the wild, where we're able to give them those optimum conditions, which is heating and lighting, but also actually being able to give them optimal food as well. So it does balance out. And like I said, you don't seem to see that detriment that quickly. Like I said, so yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
you see, in Africa with the Niles, like they know when the crocodiles are having their nests, and they know when to rack up on those eggs and stuff and raid the nest, because they know that that's going to be plentiful for like a short amount of time.
Yeah, there's so many things tied into food sources and stuff. All the Indonesian stuff sort of make sure that its hatchlings are hatching out in the rainy season. It's just when you get an influx of more insects, basically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So they're pulling it out. If they did it in the dry season, then they're hatching babies out, then they'd come out and get no food. So
hey, Jim, can you? Because I lose my mind. You know that. You're my governor. So can you please remind me somewhere before this is over? I want to talk to Chris about color morph anomalies and things like that, but I don't want to get into that right now. But just I want Chris's opinion on that and other things that will lead me into. So geez, where was I going?
Yeah, you want to cover that before the end of the show. That's pretty much where he's trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
So Chris, with the food cycling and things that I mean, that's generally what I do. It's a food cycle. I mean, I run my animals like it's a time of plenty, and they just keep doing their thing. So with that, I've noticed over the years, because I've been doing this a long time. Back when I first started with monitors, we had all the variety of like bugs and fish and things like that. However, it's only probably in the last 10 years or so that I discovered quail and quail eggs and the use of quail eggs. So my opinion on it is I feed the shit out of my animals with quail because I think it's a low caloric item. And while it's enough for them to stimulate breeding and egg production, it's not enough to put fat on these animals, which I see a lot of people, and they're on the internet. The internet is a good thing and a bad thing, but I see so many of these big football-shaped animals, and some of them from breeders too. And I just look at those animals, and I love these animals, and I know that's not a good body weight for these animals. So I really found that you can't overfeed with quail and quail eggs because there's just not enough caloric on there to put fat on their body, so long as they're producing, they're turning that energy into egg production.
Well, even as a whole, like I feed predominantly quail. So what happens is that when one of them is looking cute at me and I know I shouldn't feed it, I'll just give it a little quail and it'll just go about its business. But even on a feed, a big feed day, and they get medium or a large quail, they're still thin. It's still not. I've seen the difference between chickens or anything. It's like they'll eat one as opposed to 3 quail, and you just see the barrel forming.
Right, but you see, I don't think an in-shape animal is different than an emaciated animal. So for them to be in shape, like a high-performance athlete, they're not skinny, they're not overweight, they're lean, they're in the perfect working order. So I've noticed with tree monitors, Chris, that they're highly insectivorous, yet if you still use quail of the appropriate size, and of course in the appropriate amount, that it's still, I don't believe that's putting on a lot of weight for tree monitors, which tend to be obese.
Yeah, we were actually breeding quail, and we actually raised day-old quail now, and raise them up for pretty much everything here. Yeah, it's definitely a better food source. They're just not going to be finding many rodents in the wild. I mean, you can use rodents. I do use rodents. I'm not going to lie.
I do too, sparingly.
You have to be extremely careful. And once you go past that point of no return, it is impossible. I mean, I've got some Mitchellii back in the UK that must have just been fed rats and mice. And I've starved them. I've not fed them for, like, you know, fed them really, really lean. Like,
and they won't get off of it.
And it just doesn't come off. So I just started feeding them normally again, because I was trying to work out that they're quite seasonal in the wild, because they get this flood and this famine from sort of northern Australia. So I wasn't too worried about keeping them really lean. But yeah, they just never comes off, and especially females. And if you lose a cycle, or she doesn't lay eggs, she almost builds those eggs up. She reabsorbs and keeps all that calorific value on her. And it is, I'm telling you now, it's impossible to get off. So yeah, once they've gone past that point of no return, it takes a lot to get them off. So yeah, feeding something lean like quail is perfect. There's a higher margin of error. Basically, you can really feed them and it's not going to be too detrimental. Where if you feed too many rats, too many mice, or anything like that, you go past that point. The females are the worst for sure. I mean, you get a big fat male, but I don't think you should really be feeding your males as much as your females anyway.
Absolutely.
You miss that one cycle and you've ruined that animal if you've overfed it. Going back to like what we're doing in Indonesia, some of the clutches I've got off some of these females and how skinny they were, you would say like there's no way that's ever going to produce a clutch. And a bit like I was telling you guys before, the ones outside for some reason seem to self-regulate way more than the stuff does. Not speaking about, we obviously haven't been keeping them indoors over here, but like say my stuff from the UK, if I put anything in there for my tree monitors in the UK, they're eating it. They're really on you. It's a struggle here to actually try and food cycle the stuff outside. I can put boxes and boxes of dubia in there, or literally anything, even quail, which is a preferred item for the tree monitors, or all rodents, and they won't actually eat it. They'll just leave it in there. So it's quite interesting that they've got this self-regulation outside where we move them inside and they're eating a lot more.
Yeah, it's really nice to know the science behind that, you know?
Yeah, I can't work it out yet.
Well, you know what? In a lot of times I say this, you know, with classifications and you know, us naming species, it's like I always say, you know, we do that because we're us as dumb human beings. We're at the top of the food chain, and we want everything under us. We want to classify things. So you could call, you know, those new silver jobiensis from Batanta, we call them peach throats or jobiensis, and like none of that matters. Those animals know who they are and they know what they are. We have to put labels on stuff, which, you know, it's just so arrogant of us human beings to do that, because the animals know what they are. Yeah. Bottom line, you know.
Yeah, interesting on those Batanta peach throats. We've actually been sending them out from this farm as just jobiensis for maybe, I don't know, I think the owner said maybe 5 years, maybe even longer than that. And yeah, all of a sudden they've become, I mean, they're stunning animals. I'm not taking anything away from them, but you put a label on it. Yeah, you've put this label on it, and all of a sudden there's this great demand, and everyone's talking about them. But they've been coming in for years on end. And Bun, the guy who owns the farm here, I said, yeah, everyone's going crazy for these Batantas, and he just shook his head. He was like, I've been sending those out as peach throats for at least 5 years, and now we've started sending them out as Batantas. Then everyone's going crazy. So I think people like that, especially in the reptile hobby. People like to have something new.
Well, that's like anything. They put a new label on something that's already existing, and people are like, oh, I have to have it. It's new.
Well, you know, more so than that, what I think is, because I do remember silver peach throats coming in, you know, 25, 30 years ago. Very rare. But with, I don't know if it's the collecting or the holding until quotas are filled. But man, these animals are coming in great shape. The two I have here, you know, they were of a normal wild caught weight and size. They were maybe a little dehydrated, but these silver peach throats, whatever that you want to call them, now compared to like a Jayapura animal, jobiensis, which are really high strung and nervous when you first get them in as wild caughts, I've noticed these ones that I have here, first day I was tongue feeding them, and when I walk in the room, they don't run from me. They're very calm animals, and I love them. I'm hoping I can produce some.
Yeah, Yeah, we've produced them here, Mike. So they're no different. I mean, I quite enjoy the taxonomy side of it, so I do actually like putting names on stuff, and I would not be surprised if they are divergent enough, especially from like your Jayapuras. That's miles away. I mean, Batanta is isolated. We've got the Macraei there and stuff like that. So I think they probably do warrant a new species status. They shouldn't be treated any different, I guess. Like you said, they know what they are. Funnily enough, the ones on Waigeo are exactly the same. So I found them on Waigeo and Batanta, and they're both that dark. So it's like a natural exanthic, basically, compared to your.
I was gonna ask that. Is there some axanthic in there? Because like I've never heard. I'm learning about this whole silver peach throat thing now.
Yeah,
like, oh, peach throat. And they're like, no, silver peach throat. I went, peach throat. They're like, no, it's a silver. And I'm like,
at the moment, it's just dubious. But no, it's not a morph. They're just all that color. It's just a natural variation in color. A bit like why the blue tree monitors on Batanta are blue, and then literally 3 miles. Me and Brian were just there, and you could probably throw a rock from Salawati, it felt, to Batanta. It's green there and blue there. For some reason, there's an evolutionary advantage for them to be a darker color. They're definitely cool. They're awesome. And like I said, Mike, I think all the farms have probably upped their game a bit from what they were doing maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
with keeping stuff better, for sure. Do you know what I mean? It's not coming in like just rubbish. So it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do, because I can remember back in the day, green trees, peach throats, whatever was coming in. I mean, you had your hands full getting them things back into good shape, and deworming them, rehydrating them. That was a task. Where it seems more and more, the stuff that's coming in is. I mean, you still have to do your work with them, but not nearly as touch and go, with the possibility of them dying anyways, as back then.
Do you guys think that it's like the facilities that you're getting these animals from? Maybe they're changing their ways on how to.
I think so.
Just sending it, because there's such a backlash, and I've seen pictures. I've seen these animals where their long toes, the vein that's in them, it's what's bonding their back legs together, and they're piled up in all these. It's disgusting. It's deplorable. So maybe I would hope that they're changing their ways of how they are actually taking care of these animals to send out.
Yeah, definitely. You wouldn't believe, I think people don't believe how strict the Indonesian government is with checking farms now. I don't have any experience with what they were doing before, so I don't know if that's a recent thing or whatever. But yeah, we get audited by the Wildlife Department, CITES and everything else. So yeah, I think those days are gone pretty much. So everyone's had to up their game.
Well, that's a good thing for the animals and us. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The captive breeding side of things, I don't know. I can only speak to what we're doing here. Like I said, we're trying to captive breed, and are captive breeding pretty much everything. So yeah, it's definitely getting better. There's just the market's not there. There's quite a few. There's probably 8 other farms, and then if you annoy one customer and send them a load of bad stuff, they're just going to not order from you, and someone can go get it from another farm now. Gone are those days where a lot fewer, and you just got sent whatever they did.
I think they did, yeah.
Yeah, I think Nobody wants these animals to die, no matter where they've come from, whether they're captive bred or not. Do you know what I mean? So I think the responsibility on the farms, tied in with the checks that we're now getting from the government. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't know when they were coming in. It's always been a lot stricter than people think, but it's definitely seems to be a lot of people are getting good stuff now, as you're seeing.
And okay, so let me segue into this now. So I don't even know how to say this. I'm a purist. Okay, I don't want to see my beloved Varanus market turn into a ball python game. I don't want to see T negative cookies and cream, strawberry shortcakes. I don't want to see that shit with monitors. What I want to see is locale specific, classic examples of these animals. And with a lot of people coming from the the ball python world and the reticulated python world, and then now starting with I throw up the air quotes water monitors. They're mixing locales to get these things, and boy, if they ever shut things down, it's going to be a nightmare so I will always breed locale specific, true animals, never produce hybrids. But how do you feel about all the color anomalies and stuff? I mean, outside of natural occurring morphs.
I hate it, Mike. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit hypocritical because I used to breed carpet pythons, morph carpet pythons, and used to. I think that's where I learned it from, to be honest. I used to breed these different subspecies all together, and they used to come out a muddy mess. I've never crossbred any monitors. Everything here I'm super stringent on, and so is Bungie. He's been even with like the chondros and stuff. We just, we've got the opportunity here at Source to produce these things completely pure. So we're that's all we're doing. These salvator morphs and stuff, I've spoken to some of the guys. They're just excited over here in Indonesia. Like I said, we don't really work with many salvators. The actual domestic hobby here are breeding way more than we ever could. For the time I'm spending on other species, we can buy them off them and then ship them out, and they're sort of amazing animals. But they're just excited, a bit like the Royal Morph hobby. They're just excited to make some new morph and stuff. So it's their sort of thing to play around with. But yeah, if we get anything of any sort of locality here, whether it's a water mono, we've got the black dragons and stuff here. They're all being kept completely pure. Do you know what I mean? I would never do it, and it's sort of the ethos of this farm is to keep everything pure, 100%. That goes down to the
good for you on that, Chris, and I hope you're like me. I mean, I know I get looked at funny by a lot of the people that are trying to do crosses and mixes and yeah. So keep sounding the alarm like I do, and hopefully people will get it in their heads. Like it all, for me, this all goes back, over 30 years ago when there was the three-way cross in the Gulai complex of Flavorufus, Argus, and whatever the third species was. And now, and so now in this day, like I love Flavorufus. I love them all, but I love Flavorufus. But you can't find a pure Flavorufus in the United States to save your ass. What a shame.
Yeah, well, it's crazy to do it with anything of the Australian stuff because that is what it is. I mean, all that stuff's pretty much mixed up. You got your Audatria stuff. I mean, the people that were doing those crosses were even starting to do cross the Audatria stuff, which was just insane. The Kimbleys with the Pilbaras and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's just sort of one of those things that, like, I don't know. Like, I'm on the fence. I was like, I'm sure the animal comes out looking pretty, but what does that do for the
I think it's like a different subsect of the hobby, which I have been involved with. Like I said, going back to those carpet pythons, where I wasn't thinking about keeping stuff pure or anything. I was just thinking about what's the coolest looking animal I can produce, and that's where that subsect of the hobby is looking. We just need people like you and me, Mike, and there's quite a few others that are just keeping stuff pure. Nick Mutton with the carpet pythons, he breeds loads and loads of morphs, but he also keeps stuff really pure. So that mindset I really like. Do your morph stuff, but also make sure you've always got the pure stuff to be able to offer.
You have to, because so like people say to me all the time, I'm trying to, like, they'll cross, like, and I'm not pointing a finger at anyone in specific, but just off the top of my head, like, so they're taking these T+ and T- Salvators, and they're mixing in Celebensis with it, and they're saying, I want to make a smaller growing albino water monitor. I'm like, well, you're not doing that. You're making a whole new thing. It's not Celebensis. It's not Salvator. What you're making, it's neither. It makes no sense. So, I mean, as far as selective breeding, if you want a smaller growing albino water monitor, you have to hold back your animals. And then you take the smallest and you breed them with the smallest, and you have those babies and you pick out those smallest ones. That's how you do it proper, not cutting corners.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah,
cut
but
the
that goes back. Like Mike, you and I have always talked about how everybody wants things now.
right.
Nobody wants to put in the work. If
Yeah.
I
But
buy a
you know what?
monitor and I call you, Chris, and I was like, Chris, I need help with this monitor, and you're telling me be patient, work this, and I'm like, yeah, no, I want it done now. Like, I want this animal to like make me tea right now.
Right.
How do I get that? So that's
But
that whole rush thing. Nobody
if
wants to put in
if
that
you
work.
go the long road, the reward in the end is actually what you're after.
Right.
You would have a pure celebensis that's an albino. I mean, it's plain and simple. But
Genetics.
trying to cut the corners, that to me, that's a ball python and snake breeder thing. And we as monitor breeders, we know the value of these animals and what it's like and how rare they are in their in their native land. And we like to keep them pure. I like to keep them pure, Chris, and so on. There's many people that do. So I just don't cut the corners, man. That's what I wanted to talk about, Jen. So back to you, Chris. Take it away.
I'll have to correct myself on Nick Mutton because he will literally have my guts for garters. Nick actually only breeds morphs that are in that species, so he doesn't cross the subspecies. So that was a bad example.
So it's,
and he will
it's only like a color variant.
Yeah, so he'll do like it's like Darwin, like variegata for the carpet pythons. He'll breed every morph, but only to that species. He won't actually cross the subspecies. So he was a bad example. But there are other people. Like I said, because he will literally kill me if he hears this. So yeah, Nick doesn't crossbreed any subspecies, but he's got his morph projects and his pure phenotype projects. But there are other people that do, the crosses over there, but they'll also keep stuff pure. And like I said before, I think that's the way to go if you do want to do that. I'm not interested in it at all. I'll let those guys do it. If people want to buy it, they'll do it. But I'll make sure everything that is locality or anything like that is kept pure, because it's just what I enjoy now. I think if you go out to the wild and see this stuff, it makes a big impact on you as well. So there's so many natural phenotypes that are beautiful.
Right. So what led me to that is I was so proud and happy when I saw your video this morning about the I believe it's the Maruk Prestasi. And you were saying how you want to keep Maruk. I mean, Maruks are freaking beautiful. Those things are so beautiful. Why you would want to mix anything in with them? It's just, I think it's bad. I just think it's bad. So to hear you saying that on your videos, good on you, because I know you're looked up to in the tree monitor and in the monitor community in general. So we need to voice these things. I tend to be a little brash, and you're a lot calmer than me. So people kind of just look and say, there goes Uncle Mike blowing his mouth again, But I'm glad to hear that you're on board.
Yeah, well, I mean, that green tree python thing is a complete mess. So the people that have been, we knew that for anyone that doesn't know, that they've been split up into various subspecies, and they should actually be different species. They just didn't do the work to do it. It's good that they split them up into subspecies anyway. But people knew about that for ages. You could look at a biak and then look at, an arrow and just see that's a different snake. It's got a different shaped head and all the rest of it. But those localities for green tree pythons pretty much lie exactly where they do with the Prasinus. So I'm preempting it already. And not just me, but many people have been talking about it for years. I've put a bit more of now I've seen so many of them. The Marukis, not so much. I'm trying to work on that to sort of say, because there are some animals from some other areas, Salawati, where me and Brian just found them, that do look similar to Merauke. So I'm trying to find like a real definitive key to key them out. But that being said, I 100% feel in my heart that those will be 3 different species. So I'm warning people now, just, we've seen it with the green tree pythons. We've seen it with a lot of other species. Just a heads up, I'm pretty sure these are going to be 3 different species from what I know. And the crosses, there's some crosses knocking about that I get shown of the Merauke animals in particular. I can't tell the difference. If you don't tell me, I'm like, I don't know. Literally, I only know if they're the ones we've got here because I know where they've come from. If you show me a cross, it just becomes so difficult.
Well, with that said, Chris, I've heard people say, well, you just got to keep good data and records of your breeding stuff. It's like, man, once that animal leaves your good breeding data, it goes to the next guy who don't give a shit about data, there goes all your information. It's just gone. So just don't do it.
Yeah, or it gets sold for the whatever's the highest at the point. I've seen that happen a lot.
That's true too.
If Merauke's are twice as much, then it's a Merauke, or if the Sarong ones are twice as much, it's going to be a Sarong. I mean, like you say, Mike, people say that all the time, but once it's left their hands, I mean, they might have all good intentions to sell it properly, but yeah, once it's gone out of there, as soon as it's gone through a few different hands, then it's just empty. So they're right. Beautiful. And going back to that selective breeding, I think so much can be done with the selective breeding and stuff. I posted that video earlier of those yellow tree monitors. I mean, they're fluorescent yellow already. So if you just keep breeding the yellow ones and the yellow ones, like how yellow can they get? They're going to be like highlighter yellow. Do you know what I mean? They're
lemon, like highlighter yellow almost.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Also, we have, excuse me, 1 second. Varanus King 09 says, Chris, when are you going to go to Aru to find some wild Varanus Bicari?
It's on the list. So I've done the 4 species now, which is basically what I call the easy species. So the Rajarampat archipelago. So that's your Mizul animals, which is Risingrai. Sorry, I got pen all over my hands. Risingrai from Mizul, your Prasinus, which is sort of Salawati, your Waigo, which is Bomai, and then Batanta is your Macrae. Those islands are really easy to get to, basically. So I've ticked all those ones off now. So it's a choice now for the next trip of going to Biak to find Cordensis and Aru to go for Beckerai. So yeah, it's going to get done by myself in the next year or two. Both islands are
videos on that, right?
Yeah, they're just a little bit harder than those first 4. And then I'm actually in talks with someone now to do the really difficult ones, which is on the Papua New Guinea side, which is the ones like the Bogatai and your Telestonestes, which are, the ones we've got like 1 voucher specimen for. The world's opened up quite a lot now. There's a lot of people going to these crazy places, which I didn't even think you could get to for birding. The birding hobby for looking for these obscure birds is just insane. So, hopefully the plan is, the bucket list is to tick all 9 species off.
Wow.
Nice. Hey, another quick question for you since you're over there, Chris. Back in the day when I first bred Jobiensis, I had bred the Jayapuras pure, and then I was at a show and I seen this unusual Jobiensis that was supposedly a Maruk animal, and this animal had like a royal blue on its throat and a pink cheek. Any information on if it was truly a Maruk animal or if it was just a one-off? What was I looking at?
Do you know what? I don't take that much notice out of the ones we've got. I don't think we definitely haven't got any labelled up as Merauke off the top of my head. I could be lying. Tomorrow I'll let you know, because I'll go and have a proper look at the localities we've got over there, baby-wise. We definitely got Jayapuras. We definitely got ones from Biak. We might have some from Merauke, but like I said, I haven't really concentrated on those too much. We've got some adult breeders, but those are sort of Batanta and Biak animals. And then I'll have to see what we're raising up for future breeders, if there's any Merauke ones there. We've definitely got Merauke indicus. I'm trying to think about Merauke jobiensis. I don't want to lie, Mike, so I'll check for you tomorrow, mate, and see what's going on.
Yeah, it was such an unusual coloration it was definitely, unlike these Batantas, it was definitely a jobiensis, but the color difference in the face and throat was just next level, completely different. That I've always wondered where that animal truly came from, and I've never seen another one like it. May have just been a one-off. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting thing too. It could be from
what color throat did you say? Did it have a mic?
Its throat was a deep blue, and then it went from the deep blue on the throat right up into a real pink cheek.
Okay.
And then the typical jobiensis look, other than the throat and the pink cheek. And that was so long ago. The only photos I have were on the little SIM card from a digital camera, and I have no idea what the little cards are.
Yeah. I'll check. Like I said, I don't have Well, I'm not at the moment paying too much concentration to the beach because they're just breeding for us anyway. So it's not something I've really had to concentrate on. Like I said, I know we've got pretty much every locality we can have. So I was trying to think all the Merauke things I could think of. We've got some really nice Merauke indicus, which are a bit different. I can't remember seeing Jobiensis, so I'll definitely check. The ones from Biak are pretty different as well. Like I said,
See, that's what I'm saying. It may have been because I know back in those days they weren't telling you where they were collecting them. They were, they were giving you a story. They didn't want nobody going,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that happens all the time with stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's people don't want where stuff's coming from for sure. But yeah, it might be in a Biak, for example. I'll go and check tomorrow, and I'll send you some photos over. And
thank you. I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah. There's the reptile. Okay, let's try talking properly now. The Reptile Whisperer asks, "What about trying to find Telenestus?"
Yes, that's the ones I was just talking about. So yeah, that's that. I've been in contact with this guy over on that side. All the stuff I've been doing is the Indonesian side. So Papua New Guinea is split from West Papua, which is owned by Indonesia, and then you get Papua New Guinea, which is a lot more dangerous to travel to. Basically, the Indonesian side can be dangerous, but it's a lot less dangerous than that Papua New Guinea side.
I was going to say, isn't that kind of like?
Yeah. So that's the ones I'm moving till last. I'm doing all the easy ones and then plucking up the courage to go over there. But I literally messaged him last week just to ask the locals if they did see have they seen any tree monitors. And I sent him a picture of Bogota, I think, which would be sort of the closest looking one over there. So he's actually on a trip now with a load of birders, which I thought, like I said before, which I think is insane that these birders are going to these places. I mean, Rosal Island, where they come from, is proper out there. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty hard to get to. So it'd be interesting to see what the locals say. And then if they say they do see him, I'll make a trip over to see him. I'll probably end up going and having a look anyway, but it'd be just nice to get a bit of a heads up whether they're actually seeing any monitors there. If they say we've never seen one, then we can go back to, did they actually occur there? Were they actually coming from a different island? A bit like we were saying before, a lot of those discoveries, I can't remember when that one was, they were going on these ships on these explorations like your Darwins and your Wallaces and stuff. So they might have actually come from a different island that we don't actually know about, but it was labeled Rosal for some reason. So, it's a big mystery. They're called the Mysterious Tree Monitor. And that's the reason.
That's so cool. It's like a phantom tree monitor.
Yeah, we've got one. Yeah, there's one holotype that we know about. It's super old. It's really faded. There's arguments between those taxonomists. Rob, obviously, who I had on, is a good friend of mine. He was saying it had some green on it, which I can see from his pictures. And then you've got Berndinder Miller. He says, no, it's completely brown. But he's looking at this preserved specimen, 20 years later than Rob did. So yeah, we just need a real one. So it's definitely on the list.
Right. That is so cool. Amy from whatchamacallit, not from whatchamacallit, but Amy's Reptile Adventure says, "Hey Mike, where or how do I find these amazing silver peach throats?"
Well, they've actually a couple of friends of mine have actually just bring some in. They sent me two, which I believe are a pair. I won't know till I start, getting weight back on them. But I believe it's a pair. But they're coming in. So, like, you can look at cold-blooded shops in Florida there. I know they just imported, I think, like 7 or 9 of them. 2 that I have gotten, and then another person I know had gotten 2 as well. And then maybe Chris can fill you in on that a little more.
We sent some out 3 weeks ago, I think. So I don't know where they've been. Our distributor for America is Michael Cole, but I'm not quite sure where Michael sends his stuff onto, if he sends it direct or where it goes. So I haven't really discussed that side. It's not really my business what he does with them. But we sent out, I think, 5 or 6, 2, 3 weeks ago. So
yeah, so I believe with your where you said they were going with Michael Cole. I believe 2 of those came my way. So
okay. And I want to say a special thank you, William Powell. Thank you for your super chat. For everyone who's watching, super chats go towards U.S. ARC so they can support us and protect our rights of keeping reptiles. After YouTube takes their cut, 100% with leftover goes towards U.S. ARC. So thank you, William Powell, for your
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Excuse me, some seconds. I'm grabbing some tissue.
Yeah,
Oh my God, we
ahead.
lost Chris. Oh my God.
I've been playing with a pen in my hands and I managed to get ink all over my hands, so I just need to wipe that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know that.
Hey, Chris, just don't do this.
yeah, I got a big moustache.
Yeah.
You know what? I was on a call the other day, and that's exactly what happened. Like I look like this, and I'm talking, and I just go like this, and then next you know, you see like 3 people going,
This chick's got a mustache.
and I'm just like talking, and then it ended. And when I went to the bathroom, I was like, oh my God! It was like, how long was I like that on that call?
So let me, while we got Chris here, let me go into a little story of mine. So over my whole career of keeping Varanus, I've always loved, and probably one of my favorite species is Varanus similis. Now, however, over the 30 plus years that I've been doing this, I've kept maybe 3 or 4 different groups, and I've never, oh man, these things are like a pin in my side here, because I pretty much breed almost everything I keep. Similis, they've been a real puzzle for me. So I just, maybe 3 years ago, I just put together this group that I have here currently. And Chris, I was always, so I've never been anywhere. I've never been overseas anywhere. So I seen an episode of the Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin, many years ago, where he was up in the Northern Territory in Australia, and it was a flooded forest. So he's trouncing around in knee-deep water, and in typical Steve Irwin fashion, he sees something scurry up a tree. He goes up the tree, and he's got a little stick, and he pokes out what, it was a similis. It was a similis. So all those years, I've kept them really hot and humid with not much of a cold, with not much of a break from the heat, but constant heat always. And then I was just getting ready to let my group go when, and like a miracle from God, you posted the pictures of you digging up your similis eggs. And I said, I gotta call this guy. So I called you, and you said, yeah, mate, if yours were Australian, you'd probably be keeping them right. However, you sent me pictures of the habitat where you find them where you're at there. And I was like, holy shit, man, I've been keeping these things wrong for 30 years. Felt horrible. And again, another species that I had gotten overweight. And now I'm in that phase now where I'm trying to work that weight off of them. And like you say, it's not easy. But thank you so much for your guidance with these so far. Yeah. Not giving up on them yet now because of you.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to rub it in, but that's like the most productive monitor we got. Like I said to you on the phone, mate, they're definitely not hard. I think, like I said, I'll say for the audience, I was pretty shocked from the data I've been collecting from Merauke and speaking to Dan Natouche, and he actually sent me those pictures that I sent over to you. I mean, the habitat is literally exactly what you'd find in northern Australia. So it's like almost eucalypts. I don't know exactly what they are, but it's like this savanna sort of habitat. But then if you look at the weather data for Merauke, I mean, it's pretty hot most of the time. But they have such a massive drop. Off the top of my head, I think it's something crazy like 12 Celsius, which is going to be way down now. I'll have a look what that is. It's like 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. I can't remember if that was nighttime drop or just all time. I think it was ambient temperature. I can't remember if it was night or daytime, but it's a massive swing anyway from what they'd be getting, in the daytime in the summer. So they definitely got like a massive season there, which before I sort of thought about it, Mike, I was on the same page as you, is where, it's pretty equatorial. So they'd be having the same sort of temperatures year round. I think it's because it's so far south. It's getting a bit more of a temperature swing. So yeah, it's very interesting. And like I said, we produce hundreds here, absolutely hundreds.
Wow.
And we went through like a month when Peter was here, where we were digging them up, every single day. He was getting bored of digging them up, I think. But yeah,
and along with that, like, you said, it looks like your animals are a little heavy there, and I agree. I mean, I'm not, immune to being perfect. The animals that I have here are definitely overweight, but when you showed me the condition of your breeder animals, I was like, mine are way overweight, because they looked like what you would think. I mean, not what you would think. They look like an adult imported animal would look like. And right away, for us U.S. keepers, we think, oh man, that thing's, emaciated, but that's their natural state,
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a bit like I was saying with the tree monitors, you wouldn't believe, or I didn't believe, that some of these stuff we've had clutches off would ever breed. Do you know what I mean? It looks like, well, it's just so skinny, and it looks dehydrated, but they're just not. They can produce these. I mean, those similis lay on average 10 eggs a clutch, and then we're actually breeding those at least 3 times a year.
You're killing me. You're killing me, Chris.
I don't want to rub it in too much. But I think there's hope, Mike. That's what I said to you. I was like, if you get the weight off them, for sure. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, your animals are a bit overweight. The Audactria can be easier to get it off, I think, than some of the other ones, some of the larger monitors, for sure. I mean, we've got a few Salvadori here that have been a bit overweight, and I've been getting it off, and it seems to take a lot longer with the larger ones. I think you can keep the Audacria quite hot, so and keep it hot and not feed it. We'll get some of the weight off. I mean,
that's what I've been doing, and literally when I pour some, that's pretty much all I've been feeding them since we talked, is crickets very sparingly. And man, when those crickets go in, those crickets don't even know what hit them; they're just gone. So, yeah. But again, that's not even every day. That might be a couple times a week tops, and not till they're gorged. So I just need to keep them alive, but I don't want them to have enough calories to where I want them to burn their calories. Basically, what I'm saying.
It's a tricky one.
Dan Nardini says we need some similis in the UK, Chris.
Yeah, we're working on it, Dan. As you know, mate, they should be coming in soon, all being well. So yeah, keep your eyes out for them. I was about to say to you, Mike, they'd be sorted with like one clutch of eggs. You'd be sorted. So it's like a tricky catch-22 with like feed them enough to get them to breed, but not feed them too much so they get fat again. So you're in a tricky sort of predicament at the moment. Like I said, one clutch out of each one of those animals I saw, and you'd be back to, they'd use all that calories up, and you'd be back to an animal that you could work with and carry on producing clutches. But you got some pretty good signs out of them since I spoke to you, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're like I say, their weight is declining. I am seeing some different behaviors out of them since I removed their water feature, and that brought the humidity way down. I let it get good and cold in there at night, a nighttime drop. And I'm hopeful and waiting that this change in diet and temperature might spur them on,
Yeah, I think you just got to probably try and seasonally cycle them rather than food cycle them, because I think if you food cycle them, they might not go if you don't catch it right, and you'll just end up with that problem. I mean, I've had it. Those Mitchell are a nightmare, like I said to you before. It's a difficult one. But yeah, one clutch and they'll be sorted, and they seem to be doing a lot better. Like I said, they're probably getting quite high humidity for half of the year, and then it's very sort of dry and cold for the other half of the year. I mean, those pictures I sent you, it's pretty crazy. To me, it just looks like far northern Australia, which it basically is. That they used to be connected.
It was nothing what I had in my head.
Yeah.
When you showed me those habitat photos, it was nothing. And then when you showed me those, I was like, oh man, I feel horrible. All those groups I had, I was really doing them wrong. I was doing them injustice. So I'm glad we hooked up and we talked, and hopefully I can get these things on track and get some here in the United States.
Definitely.
We have the Reptile Whisperer. Did you find any tree monitor tree monitor neonates or juveniles? Find any nests in trees or on the ground or wherever?
Oh, that's what MJ said we had to talk about as well, wasn't it? Nesting. I don't know what part of nesting he was all about. No, I've never found any neonates or any nests. I've got a few different ideas of going over there, of what I think they nest in. I've said on a few other podcasts. There's these big epiphyte ferns, basically, with these big root balls underneath. And I'm pretty sure they're probably laying in those / hollow logs. The termite thing might be true as well. I'm waiting that paper that gets cited about a bit. I've actually got Robert Sprackland looking into that a bit more for me to see if we can get a bit more information. I reread it the other day, and it did say that they'd actually got the specimens of lizards off that termite mound, which if true and they turn out to be, Prasinus, that'll be pretty amazing, and it's sort of more confirmed. But there are lots of other. It says in the paper a green lizard with a long tail, and you get emerald tree skinks or anything there. So, like I said, I've got Rob working on trying to find out a bit more information. In that paper they cite another paper basically, which nobody's seen from what I could see. I couldn't find it anywhere, but obviously Rob's working at the museum. He might be able to find that paper, and then that'll be a confirm that they are doing it in the termite mines. But I think more likely in these epiphyte ferns with these big root balls, they don't have to worry about these termites biting them or whatever. They can get in there. I mean, they're literally everywhere.
And again, the root ball of that fern you're talking about is its own habitat. There's a whole microclimate within this root ball. So
and they're using air.
Yeah,
they're like
very well.
epiphytic orchids are their roots are exposed. They're using the environment around them.
I think if they were so specialized, like those lace monitors are so specialized with those termite mounds, if they were so specialized, the guys out there doing the collecting or seeing these lizards would have twigged onto something by now. Like there would be a season where they're all coming out of those termite mounds, where there's a lot of different options from, I think they're using a wide array of options rather than being very specific. So they're just finding somewhere that's pretty good and laying their eggs there rather than being so specialized. Like the lace monitors in Australia just lay their eggs in those termite mounds. And it's pretty easy to see that they're doing that. Where these tree monitors, I think, are just choosing somewhere, whether it's a hollow log, epiphyte fern, old termite nest is another one. I just don't think they're super specialized. They're just sort of finding something out. Otherwise, those guys over there would have been like, they're coming out of termite mounds this season. We'll go and collect them out of these termite mounds.
Probably opportunistic type of nesting behavior. And the Reptile Whisperer says, do you have any pictures of these plants with the root balls? Those epiphytic ferns, they're so vast in how many different kinds there are. So that would be kind of difficult. I would think, Chris, unless you know a specific kind of fern or whatever. But I'm a little nerd when it comes to epiphyte. So
I mean, they're like a bit like you were saying, Jen. They're from massive, probably 4 foot wide, big, massive root balls to tiny little ones like this. And they're all doing that same sort of thing. I wouldn't know the species, but they are pretty common. They're very common over there. And I've looked at them a bit more in depth from when I've been going over, and it's like, this seems like even the soil and stuff in there seems pretty good to what I'd lay an egg in if I was a tree monitor.
And Timothy Fryson, thank you for joining us. But he's also said off topic, Chris, at some point, are you going to do a podcast on your experience with scrub pythons? We're a monitor podcast, but we had a question for Chris. I could not ask it.
Hey, with all due respect, you're going to have to go to Stephen Cush for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this sounds really bad. I love scrub pythons 100%, but they're just bycatch when I'm looking for monitors, really, or generally looking for green tree pythons. We found an amazing one. I'm going to hopefully get Brian from Sundown on to talk about our experience with this one that we found while looking for crocodile monitors. It was an impressive animal. It was like 16 foot long, approximately, completely calm, beautiful, chilling in just moving around in this river. I don't know if I could do a whole podcast on scrub pythons. I'm working with a few here at the farm, a few different localities. Again, we're keeping them pure, Mike, so you'll be happy to hear that. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to do something with Stephen. Stephen's probably got more questions than I can think of. I think I've probably found 4 or 5 in the wild. We found 2 on the last trip. But yeah, I'm sure if Stephen wanted to do it, we could make something happen for sure.
So going back to the early days of me keeping Varanids, my cousin had come across an imported Moluccan scrub. This thing had to be 11 foot long, solid yellow, but like a banana yellow. Beautiful, beautiful snake. The thing was so huge. I mean, and it still wasn't even full grown. It had to be about this big around. And he goes, "Hey, will you keep this, until I can get rid of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I had no idea when I picked the bag up. I mean, the bag had to weigh 9-10 pounds. And when I opened that thing up and spilled it out, excuse me, it was a beautiful, beautiful animal. And man, I don't know. I know some scrubs are pretty aggressive. This thing was like a baby, and it was huge. And if I'm not mistaken, it went to Yasser Mufasa.
Oh yeah, that's a name I haven't heard for a while. yeah. Yasser did well with them.
And back then, I mean, people were beating the door down to get that animal. I guess it was a rare thing back then. But what a beautiful, beautiful animal. That
would have been it'd be Somalia now, Clastolepus, which is your Moluccan scrubs. They're so rare now, Mike. It's insane. I mean, it's another one of these things that we get, relating it back to, say, for Jobiensis. They've come in as cheap imports for so long. Nobody's bothered with them. I remember seeing Clastolepus in the UK. I think they were like £75, something like that. And now they're getting up there with Boland's python prices. So you're looking 5K plus. I've got one actually in the UK that I'm trying to pair up. I'm sort of, I don't even want to sell it because it's the only one I've seen in 10 years.
Yeah,
we're working with them here. They're not an easy species to breed. Again, they're a bit like the Boland's pythons, it seems. But yeah, it's just they've gone crazy. I mean, you literally can't get them now.
Yeah,
we also have back to monitors. The Reptile Whisperer says, "Have you ever thought about trying to find tricolor monitors?"
Yeah, that's actually on the trip for next year. So they're from Halmahera. I've got a love-hate relationship with tricolor monitors. I'm working with about 20 of them here. For such a nice-looking monitor, why do they have to be such a pain in the ass?
Yeah,
that's all I hear about them. I've never had the opportunity of meeting one, but I've heard they're like, you don't want to meet one.
Yeah, the guys here are absolutely petrified. There's me and another guy, the only people that actually go in with the tricolor monitors. I think the captive bred babies will be the way to go. I mean, I can't remember who it is in the US. I can't believe what she's been able to do with this captive bred baby. So when they get captive bred babies, and if they're that calm.
That's Kathy Brown. That's the Reptile Whisperer.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah.
She has one that's like it's an anomaly for sure because this thing she's got it crawling on her hands and the other people wearing like a goalie uniform just to change the water,
That's what I'm saying.
I think I was most worried about the Salvadori just because of the size of them when I come over here and I didn't work that much with them. They're sweethearts compared to you, won't I?
I think Brian DeRocca is working with some tricolors here in the United States. He's a very skilled breeder, so hopefully he can pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key to them. And then, I mean, they're going to be like such an amazing monitor to own. If you have a tricolor monitor that's not that sort of way inclined. Do you know what I mean? They're just highly strung. They're I wouldn't call them, I don't know. I'm going to say they're just highly strung and very defensive.
Right.
And they'll stand up for themselves, a bit like a Panoptes or something like that. They will sort of go at you rather than getting away if they feel cornered.
Absolutely.
Babies,
so on that subject, Chris, so I don't know if you heard this story. 30 years ago or plus, there was a picture in a book. It was just a headshot, and it was this black-headed lizard with its throat diamond out in a very threatful display. It had white rings around its nose and white zebra striping on its throat. And me and John Adranya would always talk about that animal. He goes, you're never going to see one of those. So speed forward ahead 30 plus years. John, this was just maybe a few years ago. John calls me and he goes, He goes, hey, Mikey, he goes, I got those Togienus. I'm like, Togienus? What are you talking about, dude? He goes, you remember that picture? And that's all he had to say. And I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, I just got some. They're calling them Togienus now. So I had gotten that group from him, and then I captive bred them. But, man, I know how the Uoni are. Very aggressive. They will tend to flight, but they'll charge you. Man, I'm telling you something. These Togi Island, Varanus togienus, there's no flight in them. They're only straightforward fight. And they could be quite vicious. My captive borns that I have here are much nicer. Still don't take no gruff. You know what I mean? But I'm hoping that I could produce more and more of these and bring that aggression level down through captive breeding.
Yeah.
But again, man, all the good stuff is so damn aggressive.
It's a good stuff for a reason.
Do you have much experience with the wild caught Togis?
No, we haven't got any at the farm. I think we've had them through the farm before, but I that's just me saying we probably have. I don't know if we definitely have or not. But we don't do much with the water monitors. Togienus are a bit different. I don't even know where we'd get them from, to be honest, legally. It's not something we've looked at. And like I said, the water monitors we don't really deal with because there's so many domestic keepers keeping them so well. So it's not really a focus of ours. I wouldn't mind a pair here. It'd be nice.
Well, going on with the human labeling everything, when people say, because they were grouped in with Salvatore for a long time, man, I don't find them much water monitor, more forest type, if you ask me. That's just my personal, and who am I? But I don't. I mean, of course, they got the flat tail for swimming, but most monitors besides tree monitors do. I would consider them more of a forest type monitor. Man, they are fantastic. I love them.
Gorgeous. Honestly, I've seen pictures of them. I just didn't know what they were. And it wasn't until Mike, you had them, that I was like, Togis. I was like,
well, when they do that head throat display and they arch their back, they're like a panther lizard. They're amazing.
Yeah, they remind me a little bit of the Varanus obor for some reason, which I like.
I would think like the obor are kind of more like a forest monitor.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Mike. They're like in this sago palm is where they find them basically. So you're looking sort of in between, mangrove and in jungle basically.
Right.
You get sago palm. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're filling the same sort of niche. So they're not going to be a full water monitor. They're going to be like an in-between one.
In between,
sure. They're quite arboreal, Mike, or do they?
Oh, yeah. No, mine are like OJ. I call him OJ because he's a killer. So he's a wild-caught adult male, and he does spend most of his time up in the branches in the hollows. However, with my Mike's Monitors socialization caging system, with the complete water on the bottom, I found that with a lot of animals like coming eye, sulfurs, any of the water monitor types, even these Togis, they really get a sense of security having that water underneath them. So they spend quite a bit of time in the water, but I wouldn't consider them a water monitor per se, But again, that's stupid human labeling. So
I'd imagine they're filling that same niche that those obors are, where it's like it probably floods maybe for part of the year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're doing the raining season flooding.
Yeah, definitely. So that was more interesting because I don't find the water monitors when they get bigger that arboreal. Some of the black dragons a little bit, but it's just interesting that they're almost like an indicus type. It sounds like.
I would consider that to be more so indicus type than Salvatore.
Again, not an indicus type, but something sort of fitting in between that sort of niche there.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Yeah. So amazing. I can't believe you've bred them already. So that's insane.
Let me tell you something. So when I retired my first group of Mertensi, I was talking to a friend of mine in Colorado. He's a good breeder and an artist, and I was telling him that I was going to sell my Mertens. And he goes, hey, would you ever consider trading them for the Tojis? And I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? He goes, oh, I had bought that group of Togianis from John, and I didn't buy them at the time because I didn't want to work with a bunch of imported, wild caught stuff. So this was a year later, and Steve had already, established them. So I said, hey, yeah, I'd be glad to do that trade. So we did the trade, and this is kind of right. This was a few years ago, right when my socialization caging was, doing really well for these animals, my captive born babies. I said, you know what? I asked Steve, why would you want to get rid of those? He said, Mike, when I touched the doorknob going into my room, I could hear them just bouncing off the walls. So I was like, hey, you know what? I wonder if a larger version of my socialization caging system would work for these guys. So I had 2 weeks before he was coming to Tinley, and we were going to do a hand-to-hand trade. I built a free bank of my socialization caging system, but on a larger scale for these imported wild-caught adults. So I set them all up. I went to Tinley the whole weekend. Man, I was there, but I wasn't there. My head saying, I got Tojis when I get home. So when I got home, they had 3 days to settle into these enclosures with no faces looking in at them or nothing. And so I started working with them, tongue feeding them, and it was a little process, but they calmed down relatively fast. And then I got them crawling up on my arms and in a short time. And then shortly after that, I released the male from his enclosure because I have cutouts to let him go in and out. I just said, hey, you know what? I got to try it, right? So I let the male into the one female's enclosure. I went upstairs. I had a sandwich. I come back down, and there they are in the water locked up. I was like, wow, that was really fast. So, yeah, I was amazed that they bred so fast. And now I'm sitting on these captive borns. I had just picked up so when I put these eggs in the incubator, that was maybe 2 Tinleys ago. So New Moon had a couple of really small Tojis on their table. And the money they were asking for it, I just couldn't justify it knowing I have some coming out of it. I didn't know they were going to hatch. I was hopeful. But so they hatched, and now I'm thinking I got to find those other 2 little ones, right? It turns out Chris Foley had them, and he just recently I bought them from him. So now I have his pair, which are probably about 4 months older than my captive borns. So I have 5 again to work with, plus my adults. So hopefully I can keep producing these things. I love them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've done so well with them. It's just, like I said, I didn't even think about seeing them in books and stuff before you started working with them, and hadn't really given them a second chance. So to see them come in and then you actually be successful, it's like don't get any better than that, Mike.
Thank you, my man. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we're over an hour, and Chris, man, we could talk. We could talk for days. And
we'll be back for the podcast 2.0.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You're coming back, Chris. And when you come back, maybe you can have Peter with you next time.
Yeah, well, he's in the UK, but he does visit, or he's hoping to visit quite often. But yeah, I mean, it was hard enough to get me on that podcast of his, but I think he really enjoyed it. So
but we can always have him maybe meet up with us, and then he could just join us like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure
we could definitely work something out.
Yeah, I mean, Peter's just like I said, Peter. I wouldn't be here without Peter. Peter is a real legend in the reptile game, especially in the UK. And I'll never be able to repay him for what he's done for me to set this up a bit like.
Well, you know what, Chris, that's what it's all about. Us people who have a passion for these animals, sharing our experiences, recognizing true talent like yourself, and bringing true talent into your fold, because we're getting older, and it's nice to be able to. Like, we have Nick Lillis here in the U.S. who I adore. I adore him, and I think for the future of the United States reptile breeding, Nick plus others is going to be a big player in the game, and he already is. So it's great that Peter would pass that down to you, and just for the betterment of these species. And Again, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have you back for a 2.0 for sure. I love talking to you all the time, brother. So from Jin and myself and MJ from Trap Talk Radio Network, thank you for coming on, and we'll do this again, Chris, for sure. Thank you.
Excellent. Cheers, guys. I just want to say one thing. My podcast on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, I'm going traveling again, which I said is a little bit of a problem with me doing them regularly. My one will be back on the 23rd of November. After that, I haven't got many trips planned. So like I said, they should be, I'm doing alternate weekends with you guys. I mean, I love podcasts, and I don't think there's been as much information. So with us two going, alternate weeks, it's amazing.
With that being said, maybe you can return a favor and have me on your show.
100%, mate. Yeah. You're both welcome at any time. Definitely.
Okay, man. I appreciate that. Hey, and Chris, where can everybody find you on social medias if they want to, follow you?
So the best one is Instagram now. That is purely reptiles. I mean, the Facebook's pretty much become just my Instagram because I use the Messenger on Facebook. I don't really put anything personal up. So either one, but I prefer people to go to the Instagram, which is what I changed it to now: Rare Reptiles _ and Prestasi. Basically, if you type in Rare Reptiles, it will come up. But shoot me a message on there and follow. That'd be really nice. But yeah, definitely have you both on my show. That'll be a nice and easy one for me to sort out.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hope people have enjoyed listening, and it's nice to actually be on this side of the the table, not having to do the interview and stuff.
Yeah, well, you know what, Chris, you're a wealth of information between you and Peter. It's a big honor to have you guys on here, to have you on here. And again, just keep doing what you're doing, brother. We love it, and you're doing great work.
Awesome. Excellent. Cheers, guys. Like I said, I'll try and get Peter. I'll have to get him a bit drunk or something, maybe. That's what I did. I seen you did that one podcast with him outside. You guys were having a little drink, smoking cigarettes. I'm like, oh man, I got to get outside. Definitely. No. Like I said, I'll do my best. But yeah, excellent. I hope everyone has enjoyed the podcast, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you. On behalf of me and my partner in crime, Uncle Mike and Chris Applin, everybody, thank you for joining us. Again, we're not going to be on next weekend, but the weekend following, catch up with us. Have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks again.
Much love and respect. God bless to you all.
Bye. Cheers, guys.